NFL level speaks volumes about your program. It speaks volumes about Brent Venables as a salesman. And his pitch obviously landed and struck a chord with DELAND McCULLOUGH. So you've got to give the program its props and its flowers, and Brent Venables the same, for being able to convince a guy to come from the more stable NFL to the more volatile world of college football. That's number one. Number two, his background specifically with Notre Dame is very intriguing to me. Here's why. Notre Dame has a program reputation preceding Marcus Freeman that has continued during the Marcus Freeman era.
Yeah, Notre Dame is Notre Dame, right?
Toughness and physicality, and we are going to move some furniture at the line of scrimmage. My first one that comes to mind, Quentin Nelson. Perpetual all-pro guard in the NFL. Right. Completely embodies Notre Dame. So when you come from that, and you had a hand in the development of a guy like a Jeremiah Love at an institution like that with that sort of reputation, and you bring that to Oklahoma, at the same time, by the way, Parker Thune, that Oklahoma's going to probably have its nastiest offensive line since the school joined the SEC. That seems like a marriage of cultures that is coming together at a very fortuitous juncture in the Brent Venables era. So, from a program perspective and then from a background perspective, there is a lot to like about DeLAND McCullOugh, who, yes, to the producer's question, is the father of DeLAND McCullOugh, who played Cheetah here a couple of years ago.
Yes, indeed. Family affair for the McCulloughs.
DELAND McCullOugh, by the way, I don't know if I mispronounced that earlier, but DELAND McCullOugh.
I think we've all mispronounced it at some point this week, so you're good. You are not alone. DeLAND McCullOugh and Day McCullOugh, DELAND's two younger sons, both played at Oklahoma. And I think what's notable here, Grayson, is that they both transferred and continued their collegiate careers elsewhere. DeLAND just graduated from the University of Nebraska after spending the 2025 season there. I have lost track of Day. I don't know if he's still at Louisville or if he has moved on from Louisville, but he spent one season at Oklahoma in 2023 and then departed the program for Louisville. DeLAND McCullOugh was here for 2 years, 2023 and 2024. So what that tells you, with DELAND coming to Oklahoma to take the job, is that regardless of how his son's individual careers at OU panned out, or didn't pan out as the case may be, in Day's case specifically, there are no hard feelings whatsoever towards the OU staff, and that in the time that his two sons were at the University of Oklahoma, DELAND came to develop an immense degree of respect for what Brent Venables and his staff were and are building in Norman. When you look at the resume, I think easily, without question, the top item that stands out is Jeremiah Love. DELAND McCullOugh recruited Jeremiah Love, won the battle for Jeremiah Love, developed Jeremiah Love at Notre Dame. Yes, he had already moved on from the Notre Dame staff by the time the 2025 season rolled around, and Love really had a next-level productive explosion that saw him eventually make his way to New York City as a Heisman finalist. But consider the year prior, when Love really shot onto the college football scene as one of the sport's premier running backs. He had north of 1,100 rushing yards, almost 1,400 scrimmage yards in total, and 19 total touchdowns. Notre Dame was a national runner-up after losing the national title game to Ohio State, and they got there in no small part because of the excellence of Jeremiah Love. Moreover, when you look at the NFL draft board heading into this April's draft, Jeremiah Love is almost indisputably the number one running back on the board. The guy that by consensus is number two is another DELAND McCullOugh protege, Jadarian Price. Comes from North Texas, just across the border. I want to say, was it Sherman or was it Denison? It was one of those towns that Jadarian Price comes from. And although DELAND McCullOugh did not initially recruit Price to Notre Dame, Price's arrival preceded McCullough's hiring to the Notre Dame staff, Jadarian Price spent the first 3 years of his collegiate career learning and developing under DELAND McCULLOUGH. So if you're going to give anybody props for that guy's development as a college running back, you have to give those props to DELAND McCULLOUGH. He had him, he coached him the longest. And so Oklahoma is hiring, as their next running backs coach, the man that is primarily responsible for the development of the guys that very well may be running back 1 and running back 2 on the NFL draft board this April.
It's a hell of a hire and an impressive background. And whenever I look at these hires, Parker, I always think of them in context of what specifically does the team making the hire want to improve upon? And for Oklahoma, I think one thing that was missing in their offensive game this past season was physicality at the running game. At the point of attack, one of the reasons Oklahoma could not run the football successfully was the fact that they did not have enough people that could just reestablish the line of scrimmage. And I think that with the addition of EPL likely going to be in the starting lineup, he's going to be your nastiest guy on the offensive line. And then you bring a dude in like this. You guys played the clip in the 12 o'clock hour on Steely's show with him talking about we may not be built better, but we're built different up there in Northeast Ohio. Bringing somebody with that kind of a mindset in and how that is going to permeate to his room, I think is a really good marriage in terms of Oklahoma trying to figure out how to solve that particular problem from a year ago.
By the way, the text line informing us that Dave McCullough wound up at Western Michigan. That's really cool. You know why? Because the head coach at Western Michigan, Lance Taylor, preceded DELAND McCullough as the running backs coach at Notre Dame. So you'd have to figure that connection, that relationship, played into Dave's portal recruitment.
You know, I think Teddy's theory that we're living in a simulation might be more of a fact than a theory.
Why is that?
Just because of all these little connections running around and stuff.
It really is a small world in the coaching
really
industry,
is,
man. It really is.
It's just a small world in general.
703 listener says, how about manage your running back room like a normal person? Nothing made sense about the management. Hey, today is about DELAND McCullough. Today is not about DeMarco Murray. You may have your feelings, and I may have mine, about DeMarco Murray. The DeMarco Murray era at Oklahoma is over. He is now the running backs coach of the Kansas City Chiefs. DELAND McCullough is the new sheriff in town for the backs. By the way, DELAND McCullough is a coach who has won a Super Bowl in the exact same role for which DeMarco Murray departed. DELAND McCullough coached the Kansas City Chiefs running backs from 2018 to 2020, and at the conclusion of the 2019 season, he was a member of that staff that won Super Bowl 54 in Kansas City. So he has an extensive resume at the collegiate level. Got his start in coaching at Miami of Ohio in 2010, and then his very first on-field coaching role was for a name everybody knows and knows well around here, Kevin Wilson at Indiana.
Yes.
DELAND McCullough coached running backs for all 6 seasons that Kevin Wilson was the head coach at Indiana University from 2011 to 2016. He spent a year at USC in 2017. I'll circle back around to that in a minute. But then he was the Kansas City Chiefs running backs coach from 2018 to 2020. As we mentioned, won a Super Bowl. 2021, had a one-off year back at Indiana as associate head coach and running backs coach there. 2022 through 24, he was at Notre Dame, and then in 2025 made the move back to the NFL to coach running backs for the Las Vegas Raiders. But with regard to that lone season at USC, the running back at the helm of that committee was a guy by the name of Ronald Jones. You may remember him.
Yes, I do.
Played in the NFL for several years with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I think he was a Dallas Cowboy at one point as well. Currently a free agent. He's out of the league right now. But he was the head honcho in that backfield committee at USC at the time. If I recall correctly, that USC team was that team we were talking about yesterday that won the Rose Bowl over Penn State. In the lone year that McCullough was at USC, Ronald Jones, under his tutelage, put up the following stat line. 1,550 rushing yards and 19 touchdowns on an average of 5.9 yards per carry. So what's the common thread here with DELAND McCULLOUGH?
He gets production, man.
He gets production.
And he puts dudes into the league.
He gets the most out of his dudes.
You know, and we talk about reputation preceding people. We had this conversation about Jason Witten when he was first announced to being brought on. And if DELAND McCullough goes to a recruit and says, all right, I'm going to show you what I did with Ronald Jones. I'm going to show you what I did with a guy like Tevin Coleman, with a guy like Jordan Howard, with a guy most recently like Jeremiah Love. That'll resonate because unlike Jason Witten, these kids know who those dudes are. They know Tevin Coleman and Jeremiah Love. They've been watching that. So he's got a nice reputation behind him to insert himself as a recruiter. So that's that's more upside to that. By the way, before we get back to the text line, I want to tell you our 12 to 3 p.m. hour text line brought to you now by First Liberty Bank. Ready for a bank that plays as hard as the Sooners? From local business to your first home, get the winning edge in Norman. Bank like a champion at First Liberty Bank, member FDIC.
Hey, those people are smart people over at First Liberty Bank. You want to sponsor something, you sponsor the text line because we say the words text line maybe more than any other two words.
Amen to that.
Over the course of the day on these airwaves. The Waffler says, word amongst Raider Nation is that Clint Kubiak, the new head coach, wanted to keep McCulla. His contract was up. I've heard conflicting things as to whether the Raiders wanted him back or not. What I do know beyond a shadow of a doubt is that he had opportunities to stay in the NFL if he had so desired.
And that's the overarching principle here, too, is that you did lure him from the NFL, regardless of if Clint Kubiak wanted to retain him or not.
Another really good point from a listener in the 740, the state of Ohio. And, of course, an Ohio listener would know this. He played for Kevin Wilson in college. In the mid-'90s, DELAND McCullough played his college football at Miami of Ohio. At the time, the offensive coordinator was Kevin Wilson. So that relationship between McCullough and Wilson goes back over 3 decades. Relationships matter, folks. Relationships matter.
Mm-hmm.
Brian and Bixby says, I'd rather him manage the running back room like the best coach in the country. We'll see, Brian and Bixby. I'm not here to sell you on DELAND McCullough being immensely superior to DeMarco Murray, but again, when you look at the resume, you can very well envision a world where 5 years down the road, we are looking back on this hiring and saying, wow, Oklahoma won that divorce, if you will. And I hate to call it a divorce. That's probably not the right word to call it a divorce between Oklahoma and DeMarco Murray. But when they parted ways, I think it's very plausible. We could be looking 5 years down the road saying, man, Oklahoma got the better end of that deal.
Yeah.
With DELAND McCullough stepping in.
Yeah.
Time will tell, but the resume is really strong.
A texter in the 972 says he seems to move around a lot. Any concerns with that? And for me, no. He's a running backs coach.
Yeah, and I wouldn't even really say he moves around
and
a lot.
And he really doesn't.
Yeah, like there are some guys that are legitimately, word I like to use with regard to some of these coaches is the word transient, where they're literally taking a new job almost every single year. And you see this at times, especially for young coaches that are trying to make a way for themselves, trying to climb the ladder to the top of the profession. Man, you got to always be on the lookout for better opportunities.
Correct.
Especially because if you're a position coach at the FCS or G5 level, man, you're really not making all that much money. And so the faster you can climb the rungs and get to the P4 level and get to a place like Oklahoma, then that's what you're going to do. That's what you're going to prioritize by all means. And so I'm not really concerned as far as that end of things with DELAND McCullough. And Oklahoma has demonstrated over the years under Brent Venables that if an assistant coach is doing the right stuff and providing value, they're going to be very proactive about making sure he's happy and taken care of. And if he's going to leave for another job, it's got to be the opportunity of a lifetime, i.e. the first NFL gig for a guy like DeMarco Murray or the first NFL gig for a guy like Jay Valai.
Yeah.
Last text before we hit a break here. Chris from Knoxville says, stealing this from a comment on the DELAND McCULLOUGH hire. This came from Ryan Abraham, the founder of USCFootball.com, who's covered the team since the 90s. He said one issue he mentioned was how Clay Helton failed because he never hired good assistants. Helton never seemed to hire anyone with real potential who might upstage him until the AD stepped in. There was only one exception, though. DELAND McCULLOUGh, according to Ryan Abraham, was Clay Helton's one good hire.
You think DELAND McCullagh has aspirations to be a head coach?
I don't know. He's 53 years old.
Right.
And so, honestly, if he wants to become a head coach, he's going to probably have to get a coordinator gig, like soon.
Soon, yes.
Because generally you're not hiring first-time head coaches past the age of 50 or so. There are a few exceptions.
Mm-hmm.
Brent Venables was an exception. I think he was 51 when he was hired at Oklahoma, 51 or 52. But generally, if you're 53 years old and you've never been a coordinator before, opportunities for you to be a head coach, they're probably not coming at this point. Never say never, but they're probably not coming. So he's in his bag as a running backs coach. He's been really successful as a running backs coach. I have to think a guy like that is probably just going to want to stick to what works, and he's going to be compensated very handsomely at Oklahoma.
Yeah, you can make a really good living. Hey, I want to get this last text in because it's kind of relevant to the new text line sponsor. 3-star Craig in Cleveland says, how long until we get texters that are sponsored, i.e. Liberty Bank, K-Dub in the 918?
All right, who's sponsoring Gunny, folks? We got dozens of dispensaries
I was going to say,
out
how
there
many dispensaries do we have
we
in
get
Norman?
dozens of dispensaries that would be eager for a partnership with Gunny. You want to sponsor a texter on the First Liberty Bank text line? Let us know. We can do it draft style. We'll make a whole event out of it. We'll do a whole show on it. 405-651-3439 is the First Liberty Bank text line. Keep it here on the Ref. The home of Sooner fans will be right back.
Locked In is brought to you every day by Dorsey Jones GMC in El Reno. Dorsey Jones GMC is family-owned and operated with a knowledgeable, low-pressure sales staff here to help you through the buying process and half-price oil changes on Saturdays. Visit dorsey-jonesgmc.com for more information.
Coach Stoops here for Van Hoos Fence. If you want to work with the best local fence company and get championship service, contact my friend Mark and the Van Hoos Fence team. Van Hoos Fence gives each customer the most professional craftsmanship and competitive pricing in Oklahoma. From wood to chain link to vinyl to metal fences, the Van Hoos Fence team does it all. Contact the Fencing All-Americans at Van Hoos Fence, 405-735-1167 or vhfence.com.
A public service announcement from Oklahoma Human Services. Hey Oklahomans, did you know updating your SNAP food benefits info is a SNAP? Have you changed jobs or hours? Has your monthly cost of housing changed? Have your household members changed? Maybe you've recently moved. If you're a recipient of SNAP benefits in Oklahoma, visit okdhslive.org to update your information. That's okdhslive.org. It's a SNAP, Oklahoma.
For the professional, it's not enough to just possess knowledge. That's why at GMC, we seek to refine it, to wield its power, to redefine its boundaries, while pushing the limits. And we put this knowledge to the test in every GMC Sierra by engineering each one to outperform your expectations. So you know you're getting precision and durability when you need it most. And that's what makes the GMC Sierra the truck worth knowing. We are professional grade. See your Oklahoma GMC dealers.
Warren Cat is a proud sponsor of the KREF app and Sooner Athletics. Our new store off I-35 in Norman is ready to support your equipment needs. From industry-leading Cat compact machines to reliable lift and electric power solutions, we have rental, purchase, and finance options to get you to work quickly. Plus, world-class parts and service to keep you up and running. Visit us in Norman. Click on the Warren Cat logo in the app or search Warren Cat. Whatever the job, whatever it takes.
No matter where you live, you care about one thing during bad weather: keeping your family and property safe. Scissortail Roofing and Construction is here to ensure just that. Whether it's damage from strong winds or a hailstorm, we will manage your residential or commercial project from start to finish. Call us today, 405-928-8089, or visit us online at scissortailroofing.com for a free estimate. Call Scissortail today, your trusted local roofing and construction company.
A half happy place comes in many colors. One that leaves you feeling refreshed. Something that gets you all fired up. Or gives you the space to chill. Whatever your color, bring happiness home with CertaPro Painters and make your happy place your home. CertaPro Painters. That's painting happy. Get started today at CertaPro.com. Each CertaPro Painters business is independently owned and operated. Contractor license and registration information is available at CertaPro.com.
Hey, have you been noticing a problem with your vehicle's transmission? You do not want to wait on that situation. You need to get it looked at now. Bring it by AMCO and let their professionals check it out for you. With their free vehicle courtesy check, they can help pinpoint the problem and then offer options for repair. And financing is available at all locations. AMCO, Norman, Midwest City, Oklahoma City, Edmond, Yukon, and Tulsa.
Are you ready for spring sports season? Gear up like a champion with Balfour & Norman's exclusive apparel for OU softball, baseball, and gymnastics. From the diamond to the gym, we've got the latest shirts, hats, and fan gear that show your Sooner pride in style. Whether you're cheering in the stands or repping your team around town, Balfour of Norman has you covered. Visit us today on Campus Corner or online at crimsonproud.com. Balfour of Norman, where you'll find everything Sooner.
All right, we talked about DELAND McCULLOUGH, the developer, off the top here on Locked In. What about DELAND McCULLOUGH, the recruiter? More on that in just a moment. First off, though, I want to remind you that the show is brought to you today and every day by Dorsey Jones GMC in El Reno. Folks, Dorsey Jones is a family-owned and operated establishment. Many of their employees have been with the company for 20 years or more. They offer half-price oil changes on Saturdays, friendly staff that's helpful before, during, and after the buying process, and, as we all know, GMC has some of the most reliable trucks and SUVs on the road today. So many reasons to check out Dorsey Jones and everything that they have going on out in El Reno. We appreciate their partnership here on the show. DELAND McCULLOUGh, the recruiter, Grayson. Now, again, he's spent 4 total seasons in the NFL with the Kansas City Chiefs from 2018 to 2020, and then with the Las Vegas Raiders last season. He spent 6 years at Indiana from 2011 to 2016, spent that one-off season at USC in 2017, and then another one-off season at Indiana in 2021. The Indiana of the Kevin Wilson era is a far, far cry from the Indiana of today. So, not really a fair comparison there. Really, the best measuring stick to try and determine what type of recruiter DELAND McCULLOUGh is going to be at Oklahoma is to look at what he was able to accomplish as a recruiter at Notre Dame. Now, he already has 2 running backs committed in 2027, and he's got 1 committed in 2028. Jackson Stokes and Keldred Ben are locked in. For the moment, Oklahoma's not really searching for any additional running backs in the 27 class, provided Stokes and Ben stand by their commitments and hold to them. In 2028, the big task, I think the first task for McCullough, is going to be retaining Micah Rhodes. You can pull that off, great. Starting the class off strong with the top 3 running back in the nation. But it's probably going to be until the 2028 cycle for us to get a sense of McCullough's level of recruiting acumen with the Oklahoma logo on his polo. But when we look at what he was able to do at Notre Dame, in the 3 recruiting cycles that he had there, 4 total blue-chip running back commits that he was able to sign, one of whom was Jeremiah Love. Again, Jeremiah Love, if we're looking at the McCullough file, that's the first thing that jumps out at you, is Jeremiah Love. But he was also able to sign Aeneas Williams, Kedron Young, Nolan James Jr., and Notre Dame has a brand that speaks for itself, no doubt. but Oklahoma has a comparable brand. You're talking about two of the blue bloods in the sport. So if he can have that level of recruiting success at Notre Dame, there's no reason why he shouldn't have comparable success at OU.
Especially because he's hitting the ground that is already paved. 2027, he doesn't really have to do that much work unless something goes awry. So that means he can really get himself situated in Norman, situated in the SEC, develop a nice vibe with the front office. Because remember this, by the way, too. Yes, he spent time in the NFL, so he's been around that sort of a structure front office. But in the NFL, you're not recruiting. So I do like the fact that the timing-wise, he gets to get situated in with Jim Nagy and his staff, figure out how he's going to fit in with them in terms of the recruiting efforts that are split between them. So I do like that he gets a grace period to be able to do that before he's really got to hit the ground running in 2028. But like you mentioned, I too am interested to see, can he continue his track of signing blue chippers and even developing them as well? You did it at independent Notre Dame. Can you do it in the SEC?
Brian Bixby says he better get to work keeping those commits, and no doubt that's what DELAND McCULLOUGH is going to do first when he gets to Oklahoma. Again, he doesn't have to recruit anybody in 2027 right now. He just has to convince Keldrick Ben and Jackson Stokes to stand by their pledges, which, looking at his resume, it's not going to be a terribly difficult thing for him to do. At least it shouldn't be. But Blake from Owasso asked, have you heard if Rhodes is locked in now? I talked to Micah Rhodes this morning, shortly after the news of the hire went public, and talked to some of the people in Micah Rhodes' circle as well. Here's what I can tell you. Like all the rest of us, Micah Rhodes looks at DELAND McCULLOUGH's resume and really likes what he sees. He's excited about the possibility of playing for a guy that has done as much as McCulla has done as a running backs coach. Here's the thing, though. He has no relationship with the guy. He has no relationship with DELAND McCULLOUGH. When McCulla was at Notre Dame, they hadn't, and I don't believe they have to this point, offered Micah Rhodes. So there is no relationship there yet between McCulla and Rhodes. There will be a relationship there, obviously. But especially talking to some of the people that are there in Rhodes' camp and guiding him through the process, man, I can't make you any promises as to whether he stays committed because it's all so fresh and it's all so new and they're going to be so intentional about it all. Like, it's not the type of hire that's going to lead Micah Rhodes to decommit tomorrow. It's not like this is a flop that the kid is so underwhelmed by that he realizes, okay, I just got to clear I got to get out of Oklahoma's class. I got to reopen my recruitment fast because this is not me. This is not what I'm about. I cannot get on board with this. It's not that type of a hire. It's a hire that at minimum is going to compel Micah Rhodes to give DELAND McCULLOUGH a chance and give Oklahoma a chance to retain his pledge. But who knows how that goes? Who knows how that relationship develops? Who knows whether Micah Rhodes and his people feel as comfortable with DELAND McCULLOUGH as they did with DeMarco Murray? So I'm not going to sit here and tell you he's absolutely decommitting. I'm not going to sit here and tell you he's absolutely signing with Oklahoma a year and a half from now, almost 2 years from now. We'll have to see. Maybe that's not the answer you want, but this is the nature of recruiting, man. There's a lot that constantly hangs in the balance when it comes to relationships and money and just the ebb and flow of feelings and emotions, not only for the 16, 17-year-old kids navigating the process, but for their parents and for their family members and their agents and those close to them. So we will continue to monitor that whole process.
You mentioned the parent side of things, which ultimately plays a major factor. When you look at a guy like DELAND McCULLOUGH, whose two boys have gone on to play college football, as far as we know, at least as far as I know, seem like they're very good people. DELAND McCULLOUGh seems like a very good person. I mean, you don't keep getting prestigious jobs if you're not, generally speaking. And then you play the Marcus Freeman clip that you and Steely played in the first hour, where he talks about how DELAND is very good at teaching young men how to be fathers and be husbands and productive men in society. That's going to speak volumes to parents when you walk into living rooms. That'll make them comfortable sending their son to go play for you. So I do think that you're off to a good start just based on the information that we've been given from people that have worked around him and worked with him, that he's got qualities that will appeal to a lot of people and parents.
Glenn from Nashville says, Parker, every time you talk about Rhodes, you sound very bearish on the likelihood he stays committed to OU. What are you not telling us? There's nothing I'm not telling you, Glenn. I'm trying not to get overly optimistic about Oklahoma's chances to retain a player who is top 3 in the nation at his position and who doesn't sign for another 21 months, 22 months. I've been through this enough over the years, navigated enough of these types of situations to know that there is a lot of runway left in the Micah Rhodes recruitment. Whether he stays committed to OU or not, this development changes things. The transition from DeMarco Murray to DELAND McCULLOUGH changes things, and there will be other schools that continue to swing at Micah Rhodes and try to chip away at his verbal to Oklahoma for the next year and 10 months to come until he signs. So it would be premature, and it would frankly be reckless of me to sit in front of this microphone and tell you, yes, I think there's an excellent chance Micah Rhodes stays committed to Oklahoma. He has no relationship with DELAND McCULLOUGH right now. None. We have to see how that relationship develops. It might develop seamlessly. It might blossom. Micah Rhodes might be just as comfortable with DELAND McCULLOUGH as he was with DeMarco, or even more so. It might just not be a fit. We have no way of knowing. And when we have no way of knowing, I'm not going to sit here and act like I know, because I don't. Sooner fan from the 479. Hit us up on the First Liberty Bank text line. I get we need to see if he can recruit, but in your opinion, how much was it the running back's fault at OU? I get we hadn't had a 1,000-yard rusher in a while, but our O-line hasn't been the best either. Look at Ott all of a sudden. All this is still confusing, and hope for the best from an OU standpoint. Sooner fan from the 479, I would be just fine never mentioning Jaden Ott's name again on these airways. Like, we've said all that needs to be said about that situation. That had nothing to do with DeMarco Murray. That had nothing to do with the offensive line. That had everything to do with Jaden Ott and Jaden Ott alone. Now, as far as whether it was on the running backs or on the offensive line for lack of production and lack of a true breakout performer in the backfield the last few years, again, we can have that conversation all offseason long. We could have that conversation all offseason long if you wanted to. But for me, it's about the present and it's about the future. And in the present, in the immediate future, Oklahoma has as strong of an offensive line as they will have had in quite some time as you project ahead to 2026. And that backfield is as deep and as talented as it has been in quite some time. So, with Bill Bedenbaugh coaching the O-line and DELAND McCULLOUGh coaching the running backs, there is no reason why Oklahoma's running back room and Oklahoma's rushing attack should not be excellent in 2026. Here's what you also have to keep in mind, though. John Mateer is going to take a chunk out of the running backs' collective production because he is a very strong, very capable runner as well. So that room isn't going to be quite as productive as they would be if you had your typical pro-style quarterback under center in the offense. John Mateer is going to impact the production of that room as a whole. But I very much agree that it's beyond time for Oklahoma to find a guy that can seize the bull by the horns and become an every down threat and become the A1 option in the offense. Might that be Xavier Robinson? Might that be Torrey Blaylock? Might it be Jonathan Hatton? We shall see. But I'm counting on Oklahoma's run game improving significantly in 2026, especially because the dead weight has cleared the floor. 405-651-3439 is the First Liberty Bank text line. We have one segment to go here on Locked In. Keep it right here on the Ref, the home of Sooner fans.
This is your home for Sooner fans. The Ref Sports Radio Network.
Do you like to stand out in a crowd while wearing the best in OU apparel? The Jimmy Austin Pro Shop carries the best brands you can wear to work or even dress up events. Lines such as Lululemon, Travis Matthew, FootJoy, Greg Norman, Grayson, or Turtleson with the OU and Jimmy Austin logo are sure to catch everyone's eye. You don't have to be a golfer to shop at Jimmy Austin. They also do corporate special orders for you and your company. Call them today, 405-325-6716, or visit theougolfclub.com for more information.
Good times are calling your name at the Showplace Theater with acts like Chicago, March 13th. Randy Hauser, March 21st. And Nate Smith, March 27th. Riverwind is OKC's favorite casino experience.
It's our President's Day sales event at Lander CDJR of Norman. Take up to $14,000 off of MSRP on select new 2025 Jeep Gladiator Sports, or get up to $12,750 off of new 2025 Jeep Grand Cherokees. And as always, straightforward internet pricing with no special add-ons when you get here. Gladiator stock number SL534894, Grand Cherokee stock number SC346406.
Hey, it's Chris Plank. Join TJ Perry and myself weekday mornings from 6 to 9 a.m. with The Plank Show. Nobody covers every Sooner sport like we do here at the Ref. So make sure, from border to border and coast to coast, to download the K-Ref app, presented by Warren Cat. It's the best way to stay connected with the home of Sooner fans, no matter where you are. Simply search KREF from the Apple app or Google Play Store and take us with you everywhere. Download the app today. The K-Ref app, presented by Warren Cat, proud sponsor of Sooner Athletics.
Whoa, that's the new work ride?
Yep, can go 400 miles on a charge with this baby. Speaking of charge, I should plug it in.
Are you sure that's safe? I can see bare wires.
Oh yeah, nothing to worry about. I put this charger in myself.
Ugh, I'm calling Norman Air.
The AC guys?
Yeah, they do electrical too.
Visit normanair.com for all your heating, air, plumbing, and electrical needs. Norman Air, service to the max.
Norman mornings start at Neighborhood Jam. Whether you're craving sweet or savory, classic pancakes or chorizo burritos, we've got breakfast covered. Open 6:30 to 2:30 daily. Join the wait list on Yelp before you arrive.
Neighborhood Jam on Main Street in Norman. Brunch that brings good vibes every time. Start your day with the Jam, your local breakfast destination. Tune in every Friday to hear more about the Hal Smith Restaurant Group during the Rush and the Dari Noka Show here on the Ref.
Winter weather won't stop Edmund Car Wash from keeping your ride spotless. The Broadway location features heated automatic bays that stay open even when temps drop to 8 degrees, so you'll always have a place to wash off winter grime. Choose fast, touchless automatics, or do it yourself. Free vacuums, mat cleaners, and more are included. Edmund Car Wash, where your car shines, rain or snow.
Life is full of big moments, and at OU Federal Credit Union, they are happy to help you make those moments happen. Thinking of buying a home? OUFCU offers mortgage loans with competitive rates and flexible terms. If you already own a home, their home equity loans can help you make those much-needed renovations or pay off high-interest debt. But it's not about the loans, it's about the people. Ready to make the next step toward your dreams? Visit OU Federal Credit Union today. Your home sweet loan is just around the corner. Member savings insured up to $250,000 by NCUA.
Well. Grayson Singleton, we have not one, but two commitment dates on the schedule for key OU targets over the next month. Obviously, Quentin Hale, the four-star wide receiver from the state of California, is committing at, I believe it's tomorrow. Tomorrow or Friday, I can't recall. But the expectation is he's going to choose USC over Oklahoma and the other contenders in his recruitment. But we just learned earlier today, via our boy Sam Spiegelman, that Zane Rowe is going to be making his decision on March 13th. And when you look at this list of finalists, Grayson, it is interesting because in recent weeks, Zane Rowe had been talking up several contenders in his recruitment. Texas Tech had gotten a lot of pub from Rowe, as had Texas A&M. He's taken like 6 or 7 visits to Georgia over the course of his recruitment. He's been very high on the Bulldogs as well. But news breaks that he's going to be committing on March 13th. And the list of finalists is the illustrious University of Oklahoma, Oregon, Washington, and North Carolina. Typically speaking, Oregon would loom large. You'd be a little bit worried about Oregon. Not really in the Zane Rowe recruitment, though.
Because you hadn't heard a whole lot about Oregon from Zane Rowe over the course of this whole this whole recruitment.
No. There's hardly been a mention of Oregon or of Washington or of North Carolina. Combine that with all of the positive buzz for OU over the last couple of months, and what would this suggest?
We're not going to be sweating this one out. I mean, if you just read between the lines, which this one isn't very hard to read between, this looks like this is going to go the direction of Oklahoma.
It would be incredibly surprising if Zane Rowe is not a Sooner on March 13th. And in recruiting, you never say never. And I can't say that enough. But it would be shocking at this point if he did not choose Oklahoma next month. And because February is such a short month, that isn't even as far away as it might seem. It's, 3 weeks away? 3 weeks and change before we know where Zane Rowe is going to be playing his college ball. I have to think that might go down in the history books as the longest span of time in between decommitment and recommitment for any OU player in the modern era that has decommitted and later recommitted. And there have only been a few of those. Like, that's a small pool. Jonathan Hatton did it just last cycle. Decommitted in December of 2024. Wound up recommitting to Oklahoma in November of 2025, so that was almost a year. CeeDee Lamb was another kid that many will recall decommitted from OU very briefly. It was not all that long, a span of months before he locked back in with the Sooners class. I'm trying to think, who else has there been? Who else has there been over the years? You're not talking about many, but Zane Rowe committed to Oklahoma the first time around so early in his process. He hadn't even finished his freshman year of high school yet. It was April of 2024. April of 2024 was his initial commitment to OU. Decommitted in January of last year. And now 14 months later, it appears quite likely he will wind up right back in Oklahoma's class. He can no longer claim to be the OG since he decommitted. That distinction goes to Luke Wilson, who, as it stands, is the longest continuous verbal of Oklahoma's 27 class. But feels like a full circle moment if Zane Rowe comes back around to Oklahoma next month.
And that means that Oklahoma deserves its flowers for re-establishing why Zane Rowe should come to Oklahoma. They probably swept him off his feet when he was 14, 15 years old. All right, cool. Couple years older, couple of years wiser, and Oklahoma's still the pick. So you got to give the Sooners credit for that. Certainly.
And there were so many people, and I understand this. I understand why when Zane Rowe decommitted January of 2025, so many on the text line and on the message boards and on Twitter and elsewhere were saying, well, he's gone forever, forget it. This was not your typical decommitment. This was not a case of a kid falling out of love with the school or getting an offer for way more money elsewhere. It was an acknowledgement on Zane Rowe's part that I made this decision too early. Yes, I love Oklahoma. Yes, I love Miguel Chavis, but it was not in my best interest to lock in my college commitment before I was done with my freshman year of high school. That was a decision made too soon, and he walked it back, and he's been very intentional and thoughtful about the process for the last year. And at the end of it all, we're staring down the barrel at a March 13th commitment. And after evaluating and visiting a myriad of different schools over the course of the process, guess what? Looks like Zane Rowe still hasn't found anywhere he likes better than the University of Oklahoma.
And again, that's a credit to Oklahoma. I mean, that there's no other way to put it, that you sold the kid and then you resold the kid. Probably makes it easier to retain him, too, after a year or two.
Yeah, ain't no doubt. This was a kid that initially committed for all the right reasons. Even though it was so early, he committed for all of the right reasons. loved the relationships, loved the culture. It wasn't about anything other than Zane Rowe feeling like I belong at Oklahoma.
Can I ask? Okay, I'm going to ask a halfway cynical, halfway serious questions.
Okay.
What are the wrong reasons? Because I hear this all the time, and I know what the answer to my question is.
Mm-hmm.
But we always say, oh, he committed for the right reasons. Are we saying committing for money is the wrong reason?
No, it's not necessarily money that I'm getting at. I think many will consider money to be the wrong reason. I guess in some cases it can be, depending on the circumstances. But especially when I'm thinking about a kid who made a decision that early, committing for the wrong reasons, in my mind, would entail committing based on factors or circumstances that were without question going to change between then and the time that he signed 2.5 years later.
That would be a valid wrong reason.
Yes. So he committed to Oklahoma for reasons that were pretty unchanging, that were going to stay the same, barring some enormous lapse. They were going to stay the same between April of 2024 and December of 2026 when he signed the dotted line.
Yeah, and I asked the question because obviously when people associate money now as the wrong reasons, as if you'd ever take a job that didn't pay you the most money, you weirdos. But I mean that's why we have to ask the question. That's an interesting point, though. Do people commit for reasons that you can look at obviously and say, "Oh yeah, that's gonna change"? Is this a common thing that you've seen in your career covering this?
Oh, it happens. It happens. It was happening very, very frequently, I would say, in the 23, 24, 25. Like, I honestly think the presence of agents, and there are two edges of that sword, but the presence of agents over the last couple of years, more prevalently across the landscape, it's helped kids make decisions more infrequently for the wrong reasons. Like you don't get as many kids making decisions for the wrong reasons because if you have a good agent as opposed to a handler, agent and handler are two different things. You got a handler, you're probably getting fed a bunch of bunk by a quote-unquote handler. If you got a qualified agent who knows what they're doing and has numerous clients and is experienced in the area of contract law and negotiations and all the things that go into that aspect of the student-athlete experience these days, generally that person is going to steer you in the right direction when it comes to making a decision, not necessarily toward a particular school, but toward a particular set of circumstances. And they're going to make you think about everything that is baked into your decision and the decision that you want to make. BFC says hot chicks and snort are the wrong reasons.
Those would be some of the wrong reasons.
That kind of sounds right up your alley, BFC. Come on now. You're a hot chicks and snort guy, aren't you?
Dude, you can find hot chicks anywhere. Don't commit to a college because of the women.
Oh, man. What else we got on the text line? Sooner Tile Guy says, guys, the more you talked about DELAND, the more excited I got to feeling about the future. I get that. It's an exciting hire for Oklahoma, Sooner Tile Guy, especially because, as I mentioned off the top, DELAND McCULLOUGH could have stayed in the NFL. He had options. He could have come to the college level for employers other than Oklahoma. I mentioned Miami as one that I'd heard rather credibly was interested in and had an offer on the table for DELAND McCULLOUGH, and he chose Oklahoma. This is a really good staff, man. Like, all around.
It's a solid staff.
This is a really, really good staff.
Yeah.
Especially now that Miguel Chavis has established his reputation firmly as both a recruiter and developer. He was kind of the wild card off the bat because he'd never been an on-field position coach when he joined Brent Venable's staff. But I would say if you're talking consensus opinion across the sport and across the industry, most would agree Oklahoma now has a top 5 offensive line coach in the nation in Bill Bedenbaugh. That's pretty safe consensus, I would say.
I would say so.
They have a top 5 running backs coach in DELAND McCULLOUGH. And a top 10 defensive tackles coach, I would say, and Todd Bates. I think many would have them in their top 5. Maybe not everybody, but many would.
Okay.
And Jason Witten is probably I would say he's the most exciting newcomer, the most exciting new hire to the collegiate ranks of the offseason. We have no idea how it's going to go, but
I like that.
That's a needle mover.
Yeah. No, I agree with that. They've put together a pretty nice staff, and in the front office as well, too. Don't underscore that. A text.
I should bring this up, too.
Okay.
In talking to folks with knowledge of the whole process of hiring McCullough, Oklahoma's front office alignment, that mattered to McCulla when he was evaluating the fit. That mattered.
It's got to. It definitely has to. A texter in the 703, that's the state of Virginia. Does this mean anyone who commits to Miami is for the wrong reasons? You know what would be hey, Parker, you know what would be a really fun exercise? You put together a diagram of all the reasons a player would want to commit to X school. So like location, money, coaching staff, so on and so forth. And you pull together the averages and see which programs are the most desirable. I feel like that would be a lot of fun.
Listen, we know Miami's got hot chicks and snort. It's not the only thing Miami's got going for.
Miami,
let's keep it real.
I was about to say, because now they've been to the national championship. They've got a good coach. They got a good staff. I mean, what's not to like about Miami? I'm not going to lie to you.
Puerto Rican Sooner said, hey, committing for the wrong reasons is like Cooper Hackett committing to Tech because it's either you commit now or you don't get this number. Well, I mean, hey, it worked out for Cooper Hackett, right? Like he locked the number in with Texas Tech if anything had gone awry. And in the end, he got exactly what he wanted from Oklahoma in terms of fit and compensation and all that, and he built on that Texas Tech commitment within 3 weeks. So it worked out for that kid.
There was no losing for Cooper Hackett in that situation unless he royally screwed something up.
Final text of the day from a listener in the 912. That's the state of Georgia. This defensive staff has no weak link. Every last coach is incredible. The offensive staff, still a little unproven, other than Beatonbow. I think that's fair. I would put McCulla in the same category as Beatonbow, though. With all that he has done, the reputation he has established for himself, that feels like a pretty certain good thing coming to Oklahoma as their new running backs coach. All right, folks, that's it for Locked In. We'll do it all again tomorrow. Same time, same place. For Grayson Singleton, I am Parker Thune. The Rush is next. Keep it here on The Ref.